So we're going to look again at comparing and ordering real numbers. Some of these are square roots and estimating them where they would go on a number line. So I've included a number line with the perfect squares 1 to 15 on it. You may need more than that. I would suggest having this in your notebook again, just to go back to reference or to help you with questions. So we're going to look at a few examples. Here, the first one, we are trying to compare these two numbers. So you have pi squared and then 9 1/4. So it's the easiest to combine or to compare them if they are in decimals. I know 9 1/4 is the same thing as 9.25. Okay. I also know that pi in a rounded off number is 3.14. And to square it, I'd need to multiply 3.14 times 3.14. Now, you should be able to do this without a calculator. And problems like this would be without a calculator. If you need to practice 2-digit or multi-digit multiplication, that would be something that you need to work on. For the sake of time, I'm putting it in my calculator, and it ended up being 9.8596. So, which one is bigger? Obviously, they're both 9s. So we look at the next tenths place, and the 8 is bigger. So it is pi squared is greater than 9 1/4. So then here we have two perfect squares. Not perfect squares. Two square roots. They're not perfect squares. And here's something you need to pay close attention to. Negatives. Remember, the bigger the negative, the smaller the number is. For instance, -3 is smaller than -4 or -2 and so forth. The bigger the negative, the smaller it is. So, which one would be a bigger number? Well, obviously the square root of 3 is bigger than the square root of 2, but it's negative. Therefore, it's smaller. It's kind of like you need to think opposite whenever you have negatives. The same thing if you had a -8 and a -12. Well, which one is bigger? The smaller negative is bigger. So then we come to this. And this is kind of like what you would see on a standardized test. 4 numbers. Some of them are squares, some of them are integers, some of them are fractions, mixed numbers, whatever, and you're trying to put them in order least to greatest, and they're numbered 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we're going to kind of estimate these values, what we can. This one is obviously still -7. You don't have to do anything with that one. Then the square root of 60. Well, if I look back up here, 60 is going to fall between 7 and 8. So I'm getting close to these numbers. So the question is it closer to 7, which is 49, or closer to 8, which is 64? I'm going to say we're closer to 64. So let's try 7.8. This is a trial and error. So we're going to multiply or square 7.8 and see how close we are to 60. So again, for sake of time, I'm going to use my calculator. You get 60.84. So that's a little bit big, but it's super close. We could try 7.7, but I'm guessing 7.8 works. 7.7 squared, 59.29. So it looks like 7.7 is closer to 60. So this one's going to be a negative. Again, all these are negatives. Got to be careful. Negative 7.7. I'm going to do 7.75 and see how close that is. That's super close. So I can even go one further. Again, you would have to do this probably without a calculator. I'm just trying to save some time. This again is a negative. 3/5 is 0.6. You could divide that and find it. 3 divided by 5, well, that's 0. 0.6. And then this one is another negative 66 divided by 9. 9 goes into 66 how many times? It goes 7 times, obviously. We got a bunch of 7s here. So that's 63. And we're going to bring that down and add a 0. So 9 goes into 30 how many times? 3. 27. Another 30. Do you see a pattern here? It's always going to end up being 3. So negative 7.3 repeating. So now if we're going to put them in order from smallest to largest, ascending order, the smallest number is going to be the largest negative. So if we look at these, they're all negatives. So the biggest one is this one. Negative 7.75 is the largest negative. So it would be the smallest number. So if we put them in order, 2 would be the first one, the smallest. So now that one's gone. So now the next largest negative would be this next smallest is negative 7.6, which is this one, which is number 3. Then the next, getting larger here, is the next negative would be number 4. And then this will be your last one, number 1, putting them in order from least to greatest. So again, some of this is going to be computation. Some of this is going to be dividing, multiplying, some estimating, and some guessing and trial and error. But the biggest thing is let's get them all into decimals. That's the easiest. And definitely be careful. Your bigger negatives are your smaller numbers.